I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing out something so personal and painful, but here I am. My name's David, and I've been married to Lisa for about 8 years. We have two kids, Emma, who's 6, and Jake, who's 4, and for the most part I thought we had a pretty normal life. Not perfect, but decent. Lisa's always been a bit of a bitchy personality, sharp-tongued, quick to dismiss, and honestly, she's always had a way of making me feel like I was just lucky to have her. That's what I believed, at least. Things started feeling off a few months ago, though. Little things. She'd be extra secretive about her phone, wouldn't want me to see her texts, always got defensive when I asked about her whereabouts. At first, I brushed it off as her being stressed about work or some dumb girl stuff. But then I noticed she was gone more often, sometimes for doctor's appointments. But I always felt like there was something more. I didn't have concrete proof, just gut feelings and little inconsistencies. Still, something felt wrong. You know how that gut instinct hits you, you just know deep down that something isn't right. Then came the night I finally caught her. I was cleaning the house, and I noticed some receipts tucked into the side of her purse, receipts I didn't recognize. They were hotel receipts, and not just any hotel, luxury places downtown, close to where her doctor's appointments supposedly were. I stared at them, my stomach dropping. It was strange because she'd told me she was just seeing her GP or maybe getting some routine tests, nothing out of the ordinary. But these receipts, they showed stays at fancy hotels, sometimes on the weekends when she'd claimed she was visiting her sister. I couldn't believe it. I felt like my entire world was crashing down around me. I kept digging. I found her phone records, calls, and texts at odd hours. And the pattern was clear. She was meeting someone, probably that pediatrician, Dr. Roberts, who had been treating Emma and Jake. I hadn't really thought much about him, just a friendly doctor who'd been good with our kids. But now, he was more than that, I was sure of it. I found pictures in her gallery, pictures of her with him, smiling close, like they were more than just doctor and patient. My mind was spinning. How could my wife, my partner, be sneaking around like this? The worst part, I also found explicit messages. Flirty, suggestive, talking about meeting up, about sex. All these things that made my blood boil. She'd been lying to me for months. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious. I wanted to scream, to break something, but I just sat there, stunned. I couldn't even cry at first. It was like my mind was trying to process this shock in real time. I remember staring at those receipts, feeling my fists tighten, knowing that everything I thought about our marriage was a lie. The woman I loved, the mother of my children, was out there sneaking around with our pediatrician. How could she do this to me, to us? I thought I knew her, but suddenly she was a stranger. I didn't sleep that night, just kept going over everything, trying to understand how she could betray me so blatantly, so openly. And the worst part, I knew I had to confront her soon. The lies had to end, but how, and what would I say? That was the part I was really dreading. The next morning I woke up feeling like I had been hit by a truck. My mind was racing, replaying everything I'd found the night before. I knew I couldn't just sit on this. If I didn't confront her, I'd probably go crazy. I also knew that as soon as I brought it up, nothing would be the same anymore. Still, I had to face her. I decided to wait until she came home from her supposed doctor's appointment. When she finally walked in, I could see the annoyance flashing behind her eyes, like she already knew she'd been caught. She tried to act normal, but I could see the flicker of panic just beneath her fake smile. "So Lisa," I said, trying to keep my voice steady but cold, "we need to talk about something." She looked at me, her eyes narrowing just a little. "What's wrong, David? You look like you've seen a ghost." She crossed her arms, leaning against the counter. "Just say whatever you need to say, spit it out." I took a deep breath. I found the hotel receipts, the texts, the calls at odd hours, and the pictures. "Tell me, Lisa, who's Dr. Roberts too?" "You?" Her face froze for a second, then she tried to laugh it off. "What are you talking about? You're imagining things, maybe you're just jealous or paranoid." She brushed past me, heading toward the bedroom as if dismissing everything could make it disappear. "No," I said, voice low but firm. "You've been lying to me, hiding things. I know about the affair, about you and him. Don't lie to me now, I saw everything." Her eyes widened for a moment, then she scoffed. "You're nuts, David, it's all a mistake. You're overreacting. I swear I've done nothing wrong. Why would I cheat on you? You think I'd cheat on you with that, what was his name? Roberts, please." Her tone was dismissive, but I could see the flicker of guilt behind her eyes. She was good at lying, but not good enough to hide it all. That's when I realized her initial attempt to deny was just her way of buying time. She was panicking, trying to come up with some convincing lie. But I wasn't buying it. I told her I knew the truth and that I was sick of her bullshit. I told her I deserved honesty, that I'd been a good husband and father, and that she had no right to throw everything away for some affair. Her face twisted into this bitchy glare. She looked furious, like I'd crossed some line she wasn't ready to admit to. The fight got loud. She started yelling, calling me crazy, accusing me of spying, of invading her privacy. She said she was stressed, that her doctor's visits were just that, routine, boring checkups, nothing more. She kept lying, insisting that the receipts were fake, that I was overthinking everything. But I could see through her bullshit now. The cracks, the deception, they'd been there all along. I felt like my chest was tight, like my stomach was clenched in knots. I was furious, disappointed, and crushed all at once. How could she do this? How could she betray me after all these years? And to think I'd trusted her implicitly, believed her lies about being faithful and loyal. I kept asking myself, was I just blind? Or did I choose to ignore the signs because I loved her too much? Either way, I knew this confrontation was only the beginning, and I had no idea how deep her lies went or what she was capable of. She stormed out of the room, still denying everything, but I knew I wasn't going to let this go. I needed time to think, but I also knew I had to prepare myself for what was coming next. The betrayal was raw, cutting deep. I didn't sleep much that night either, just lying there with my mind running in circles. The woman I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. And the worst part, I was starting to realize that I might never trust her again. The days that followed were a blur of anger, confusion, and a strange sense of numbness. I couldn't believe I'd been played this whole time. Lisa, my wife, the mother of my children, had been sneaking around with Dr. Roberts, our pediatrician of all people. I kept replaying the moments when I saw her with him, the way she lied, the way she dismissed my concerns like they were nothing. It was like waking up from a nightmare I couldn't escape. At first, I was furious. I wanted to confront her again, to demand answers, to curse her out and tell her how much she destroyed everything. But I knew I had to be smart. I couldn't just blow up and lose my composure. I started thinking about my options, trying to figure out what I could do to handle this mess. Revenge? That was tempting, so damn tempting. But I knew I had to be calculated. The first move I made was digging deeper into her phone. I installed an app to monitor her texts and calls discreetly. I needed to see if she was still lying or if she'd slipped up somewhere. I wasn't planning to ruin her life, but I did want to know exactly how deep this thing went. It was like peeling an onion, layer after layer of lies and secrets. Every new message or call confirmed my worst fears. She was still seeing him, still sneaking around. And the worst, she was talking about meeting him again this week, on a weekend when she claimed she'd be out with friends. Meanwhile, I started gathering evidence. Copies of receipts, screenshots of messages, anything that could prove her infidelity. I knew I needed to be ready to confront her again, but this time with proof that she could deny. I also started planning my revenge, not something stupid like yelling or hitting her, something smarter, something that would hit her where it hurt. I began researching ways to make her regret what she did. I wanted her to see that her lies and betrayal wouldn't go unpunished. I knew I couldn't just walk away from this. I had to make her feel the pain of losing me. That was the only way she'd understand how serious I was. That's when I decided I'd set a trap, catch her in the act again, and then make her regret every minute she'd spent lying to me. The night I planned for it finally arrived. I kept a close eye on her, waiting for her to leave. As soon as she headed out, probably to meet him, I started setting my plan into motion. I had taken pictures of her car leaving, and I had the evidence ready. I also called someone I knew, a private investigator friend, to see if he could help me get some footage from outside their meetings. I didn't want to just accuse her blindly. I wanted undeniable proof. When she returned that night, I was sitting on the couch pretending to be asleep. She tiptoed into the bedroom, exhausted, and I heard her whispering on the phone with someone, probably him. I pretended not to notice, but I was collecting my thoughts, planning what I'd say next. I was still furious, still hurt, but I knew I had to stay calm. I couldn't blow this. Not yet. The next morning, I confronted her again. I told her I had everything on her: screenshots, receipts, recordings. Her face drained of color when I showed her everything. She tried to deny everything, but I just kept showing her the proof. At that moment, I saw her bitchy facade melt away, replaced by genuine panic. She begged, lied, tried to spin some story about how it was a mistake, that she didn't mean for it to go this far. She'd always been good at lying, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I realized then I had caught her in her lie, and she knew it. That day, I felt a strange mix of relief and devastation. I'd finally caught her, but at what cost? My trust was shattered. She looked at me with that same bitchy glare, but now it was tinged with guilt and anger. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. The betrayal had broken something inside me, something I wasn't sure I could fix. I wanted justice, and I wanted her to realize what she'd lost. But I also knew that, from this point on, nothing would ever be the same. After I laid out all the evidence, Lisa's reaction was priceless. She went from confident and bitchy to completely panicked, almost desperate. She started crying, which I didn't buy for a second. Not because I wasn't capable of feeling some sympathy, but because I knew her tears were fake. She looked at me with those cold, manipulative eyes, trying to spin some story about how it was a mistake, how she was stressed, how she didn't mean for it to go this far. I just stood there, feeling a mixture of disgust and rage boiling inside me. She kept insisting she loved me, that she was just feeling lonely, that she was mistaken about her actions, like that somehow excused everything. I told her she was a liar, that her excuses meant nothing anymore. I wasn't interested in her justifications. I'd already seen the truth. I told her I was done, that I wanted her out of the house, that I wanted a divorce. Her bitchy attitude flared up again, and she started screaming, calling me all sorts of names: crazy, possessive, insecure. I couldn't believe how she was acting like the victim when she was the one cheating on me with our kid's doctor. I felt a strange sense of clarity in that moment, like I finally saw her for who she was. She was manipulative, selfish, and frankly, a bitch. She thought she could get away with everything because she's always been good at twisting things to her advantage. But this time, I was done playing that game. I told her I was going to do whatever it took to protect my kids and myself from her lies. I told her she needed to leave, and she argued, begged, and even yelled at me. That bitchy glare was still there, but I could see the cracks in her facade. She knew I had her cornered. I called a lawyer that day. I wanted to get everything in order: custody, visitation, and a legal separation. I didn't want her to manipulate her way out of this. I wanted the truth on paper. Meanwhile, I made sure to document everything: her texts, her calls, the receipts. I knew from experience that women like her, manipulative and bitchy, would try to spin the situation or even threaten me to keep her grip on everything. I couldn't let that happen. That night, as I watched her pack her things, she kept trying to throw the blame back on me. "You're overreacting," she snapped. "You're insecure. I didn't do anything, you're just jealous." But I wasn't buying her lies anymore. This was her way of trying to turn things around, to make herself the victim. That's what she always did, twist everything to her favor, but I'd had enough. In the quiet that followed her departure, I felt like I was walking through a fog. On one hand, I was devastated. My marriage was over, I'd been betrayed in the worst way. On the other, I felt a strange sense of relief. I had uncovered her lies, proven her guilt, and finally I could breathe again. But the emotional toll was heavy. I'd never felt so betrayed, so stupid for trusting someone so much and getting burned for it. Now, I'm left with a lot of questions. How did I miss all the signs? Why did she do it? And most importantly, how do I rebuild from this? It's a long road ahead, but I know I have to put myself and my kids first. That's what matters now. I just wish I'd seen the bitchy side of her sooner. Maybe I could have saved myself some heartbreak. But lesson learned: never trust blindly, even if she's got that sweet smile or seems perfect on the surface. Because beneath that, sometimes, there's just a venomous, manipulative bitch waiting to strike. The aftermath hit me harder than I expected. I thought I'd be able to handle everything, but the reality of it was crushing. Lisa was gone, and I was left with a house that felt emptier than ever. The kids didn't understand fully what was going on. They'd ask where Mommy was, and I'd tell them she was just taking some time away. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. I felt like I'd been blindsided, not just by her betrayal, but by the fact that I'd trusted her so blindly for so long. I started focusing on the kids. Emma and Jake did deserve to grow up in a mess of lies and betrayal. I made sure they had stability, kept routines, and tried to be the best dad I could be. But inside, I was struggling. I'd go over everything in my head, replaying her lies, her manipulations, her bitchy attitude. Part of me wanted to reach out to say something, to ask why she did it, but I knew that wouldn't get me anywhere. She was already good at spinning her lies, and I didn't trust anything she'd say anymore. I also started seeing a counselor, not because I wanted to save my marriage. I knew that ship had sailed, but because I needed to process what I'd been through. The betrayal had shaken my trust in everything, even myself. How could she have done this? How could I have missed the signs? Was I really that blind? Talking to someone helped me understand that my feelings of anger, sadness, and betrayal were all valid. I needed to give myself time to heal, something I'd never been good at before. Meanwhile, I kept the evidence I'd gathered. I didn't want her to come back and spin some story that I was the crazy one. I knew I had to be ready if she tried to manipulate me or go for full-blown guilt trips. I also started distance myself from her family, her mother, her sister. I didn't want to give them any reason to believe her lies. I wanted to be a good father, to keep my integrity intact, and to make sure the kids saw that, even in the chaos, I was still standing tall for them. The emotional toll was enormous. Some nights I lay awake thinking about everything: her bitchy, manipulative side, her lies, her betrayal. It felt like I was grieving a loss I never expected. I'd loved her, or at least I thought I did. Now I wasn't sure what to feel anymore. It was like losing a part of myself. But I also knew I had no choice but to keep going, for my kids, for myself. I had to rebuild, even if it felt impossible. I started thinking about what I'd do next. Part of me wanted to confront her again, to tell her what I really thought, how her lies had destroyed us. But I knew that wouldn't change anything. The damage was done. The only thing I could control now was how I moved forward. I decided I'd file for divorce soon, get everything legal, and make sure she couldn't manipulate her way back into my life again. I wanted clarity, stability, and most of all, peace. Looking back, I realize how naive I was. I always believed in honesty, trust, and loyalty. But now I see the world differently. People are not always who they seem. Sometimes the ones closest to you are the ones who hurt you the most. The betrayal of Lisa, her bitchy attitude, her lies, it's been a wake-up call. I've learned that trust is fragile, and once broken, it's nearly impossible to fix. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I've got to pick up the pieces and rebuild my life, one step at a time. And I will, because I have to. For me, for the kids, and for the future I want to create, free of her manipulative bullshit. It's been a few months since everything came crashing down, and honestly, I don't recognize the guy I was back then. The betrayal cut deep, but in a strange way, it also forced me to wake up and see things for what they truly are. I learned the hard way that no matter how much you love someone or how much you think you know them, some people are just good at hiding their true nature: bitchy, manipulative, and willing to betray everything for their own selfish needs. I've moved out of the house, got a new place for me and the kids, and we're finally settling into a new routine. I still get angry sometimes when I think about Lisa's lies, the way she thought she could get away with it all, but mostly I feel a sense of relief. I blocked her from my life completely. No more calls, no more texts. I don't need her bullshit anymore. What I've come to realize in this mess is that trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's nearly impossible to rebuild. But more importantly, I've learned that I am stronger than I thought. I can handle betrayal, heartbreak, and the emotional fallout, all of it. I've learned to stand up for myself, to put my kids first, and to never let anyone manipulate or lie to me again. If there's one thing I want to pass along, it's this: don't ignore the signs. Don't think someone just stressed or having a rough patch when they're really hiding something terrible. And if you do find yourself in this situation, don't be afraid to confront and get the evidence. You need to protect yourself and those you love. Trust is earned, not blindly given, and some people will take that trust and shred it without a second thought. I won't say I'm completely healed yet. There are still moments when I feel the sting of everything. But I'm moving forward. I'm working on myself, taking care of my kids, and figuring out what kind of life I want beyond the betrayal. And honestly, I'm starting to see hope again, even after all that pain. So yeah, that's my story. Betrayed by my wife, her bitchy lies, her manipulations, her affair with our pediatrician. It's a brutal lesson, but one that's made me realize my worth. I want to believe that someday I'll find someone who truly values honesty, loyalty, and love. Until then, I'm done trusting blindly. I'm trusting myself, and that's enough to get me through.